This is Boston, Massachusetts. Serving a population of 3.1 million people, a network of subways, light rail, and busways connect this U.S. city, servicing 122 stations in 3 counties. Consisting of 65 miles of track and 2.3 miles of dedicated busway, the system connects various towns around Boston, with trains radiating from downtown to the suburbs. But how did the system grow from its original stations to the network it is today? My name's Zach, and this is the evolution of the network. The Boston rail network that we know today began to form in June 1888 with the opening of a streetcar line on Beacon Street. Starting from Coolidge Corner, the line ran east in a reservation to Audubon Road before continuing east to Massachusetts Avenue. In January 1889, the line was electrified and extended west from Coolidge Corner to Chestnut Hill Avenue. A streetcar reservation opened along Commonwealth Avenue and Brighton Avenue in May 1896, running from Governor's Square to Union Square. A second unconnected reservation opened along the western part of Commonwealth Avenue that August, running from Chestnut Hill Avenue to Lake Street. In October, Huntington Avenue also saw its streetcar operations moved into a reservation, running from Brigham Circle to Copley Square. We were unable to find a stop listing for the section east of Opera Place, however feel free to leave a comment down below if you're able to offer us any insights. North America's first passenger subway opened in September 1897, with a streetcar tunnel beginning service under Tremont Street. The subway serviced 2 underground stations at Park Street and Boylston, with streetcars exiting onto the street at Public Gardens Portal. In October, a branch of the tunnel opened south from Boylston, running underground to a portal at Pleasant Street. In September 1898, the streetcar subway was extended north to a portal at Canal Street, adding 3 more stations at Scully Square, Adams Square, and Haymarket Square. 2 years later, in May 1900, the 2 streetcar reservations on Commonwealth Avenue were connected, filling the gap between Packard's Corner and Chestnut Hill Avenue. Rapid transit service in Boston began in June 1901, with a line running through the Tremont Street streetcar tunnel. Starting from Sullivan Square Station on the Charlestown Elevated, the line traveled south through the Tremont Street subway, ending at Dudley Street on the Washington Elevated. The introduction of this line displaced streetcars in parts of the subway, with streetcars no longer running between Park Street and Scully Square, and no longer using the Pleasant Street portal. In August, a second rapid transit line was introduced, running in a circular route through downtown. Trains followed the existing rapid transit line through the Tremont Street subway, circling back around over the Atlantic Elevated to service 5 new stations. An infill stop was added to the Charlestown Elevated in May 1902, with a new station opening at Thompson Square. 2 years later, in December 1904, a second streetcar subway opened, connecting East Boston to downtown. Starting from Court Street Station, the tunnel traveled under the Boston Harbor, with a portal past Maverick Square allowing streetcars to continue further east. An infill station at Atlantic Avenue was added to the subway in April 1906, providing interchange with the Atlantic Elevated station at State Street. Rapid transit service through the Tremont Street subway was removed in November 1908, with trains shifting to a new tunnel under Washington Street. 4 new stations were serviced along this stretch, including interchange at Devonshire with the East Boston Tunnel, and an interchange at Haymarket Square to the Tremont Street subway. Service on the Atlantic Elevated was also revised at this time, with trains now running from Dudley Street to Sullivan Square. An additional shuttle train also ran along this stretch, linking North Station and South Station. Streetcar service returned to the entire length of the Tremont Street subway, with service resuming between Scully Square and Park Street, as well as from Boylston to the Pleasant Street portal. In November 1909, a 2-stop extension of the Washington Elevated opened, taking the line to Forest Hills. 2 years later, in March 1912, a third rapid transit line was launched, with trains beginning operation through the Cambridge Tunnel. Starting from Park Street Station on the Tremont Street subway, the line traveled north to Harvard, servicing 2 intermediate stops at Kendall and Central. 3 months later, in June, the Tremont Street streetcar subway was extended north from Haymarket on an elevated viaduct, servicing a new stop at North Station West. In September, an infill station was opened near the south end of the Washington Elevated, with trains now stopping at Green Street. The Cambridge Tunnel service was extended 1 stop north to Stadium in October, providing access to the Harvard Stadium during game times only. The Tremont Street subway was extended west under Boylston Street in October 1914, with 2 new underground stations at Copley in Massachusetts, As part of this expansion, the portal to the public garden was closed, and a new portal opened nearby in the median of Boylston Street. In November, the Court Street station on the East Boston Tunnel was closed, with streetcars on this line now ending at Devonshire. Trains in the Cambridge Tunnel were extended one stop south in April 1915, meeting the Washington Street subway at summer-winter stations. In the East Boston Streetcar Tunnel, service was extended 2 stations west in March 1916, with a new interchange at Scully Square and a new stop at Bowdoin Square. In December, the Cambridge Dorchester Tunnel was extended one stop to South Station, providing an interchange with the Atlantic Elevated. An additional extension of the tunnel opened 1 year later in December 1917, bringing the line to Broadway. Finally, in June 1918, a further one-stop extension brought service to Andrew. Service on the Atlantic Elevated was revised in January 1919, with through service from Dudley Street to Sullivan Square being discontinued, and the station at Beach Street being closed. The shuttle train between North and South Station remained, with passengers being required to transfer to Washington Tunnel trains to continue their trip. In March, a one-stop extension of the Charlestown Elevated opened, bringing the line north to Everett. Trains on the Atlantic Elevated were revised once again in June, with a seasonal service pattern beginning on the route. Trains ran between Dudley Street and Sullivan Square from June to September, with North Station to South Station shuttles running at all other times. In December, however, this pattern was revised further, with the North Station to South Station shuttle being extended through the Washington Tunnel to Dudley Street. In November 1921, an infill station opened in the Boylston Street subway, with streetcars now stopping at Arlington. At the northern end, a station opened in July 1922, with streetcars now extending to Lechmere. Atlantic Elevated service was revised once again in September, with the seasonal service pattern being removed, and all trains running between Dudley Street and North Station year-round. Major changes to the East Boston Streetcar Tunnel occurred in April 1924, with streetcars being removed and the line being rebuilt as a rapid transit route. Trains ran from Bowdoin to Maverick Square, servicing 3 intermediate stops. 3 years later, in November 1927, trains through the Cambridge Dorchester Tunnel were extended further south, with 3 new stations taking the line to Fields Corner. The following September, a final 2-stop extension opened, with trains terminating at Ashmont, the present end station of the line. South of Ashmont, a new streetcar line was opened in August 1929, running along a separated corridor. The route traveled to Milton, with an intermediate stop at Cedar Grove. In December, an additional 3-stop extension of this line opened, taking the streetcar to its present terminus at Mattapan. More stations were added to this route in September 1930, with a new station opening at Caban Street. 1 year later, in October, another infill station at Butler opened, completing the line that we know today. Just south of the Charles River, an infill station was opened on the Cambridge Dorchester Tunnel in February 1932, with trains now stopping at Charles. In October, the Boylston Streetcar subway was extended west 1 stop, with a new underground station at Kenmore. With this change, the portal east of Kenmore was closed, with 2 new portals connecting directly to the streetcar reservations on Beacon Street and Commonwealth Avenue. Service on the Atlantic Elevated was revised in October 1933, with trains between South Station and Dudley Street being changed to run during rush hours only. However, this change was short-lived, with the Atlantic Elevated closing for service 5 years later in September 1938. A new streetcar subway was opened in February 1941, branching off south from the Boylston subway after Copley. The route traveled underneath Huntington Avenue, replacing the streetcar reservation to Opera Place. At the same time, the portal just west of Boylston was closed, with streetcars now using this new subway. Various streetcar stops were renamed in May 1947, recognizing nearby local landmarks. At the west end of the Commonwealth Reservation, the Lake Street stop was renamed to Boston College, while on the Beacon Reservation, Reservoir was renamed to Cleveland Circle. On the Huntington Reservation, Opera Place was renamed to Northeastern University. 2 years later, in July 1949, the streetcar reservation along Brighton Avenue was removed, with streetcars between Union Square and Packard's Corner now running in mixed traffic. At the same time, the streetcar portal from North Station onto the street was closed, with the stop now being used for turnbacks only. Rapid transit service on the East Boston Tunnel line was extended in January 1952, 11 years after the last system expansion. 3 new stations were opened east to Orient Heights, including a station providing access to the nearby Boston Logan International Airport. In April, an additional one-stop extension opened, taking the line to Suffolk Downs. The line was extended to Wonderland 2 years later in January 1954, completing the route that we know today. That October, Day Square station on the line was renamed to Wood Island Park, after a nearby recreation area. An infill station was opened on the streetcar viaduct south of Lechmere in August 1955, with Science Park Station beginning service. A second dedicated streetcar line opened in July 1959, running through the Tremont and Boylston Street subways and along a former railway right-of-way. Starting from Park Street Station, the route traveled through the subway to Kenmore before branching off to service 13 new stations to Riverside. The streetcar was extended 2 years later in November 1961, servicing all stations through the subway to Lechmere. In April 1962, the Pleasant Street incline on the subway was closed, with streetcars no longer traveling south of Boylston to the surface. Further north in the subway, Adams Square Station was closed the following October, and the neighboring Scully Square Station was renamed to Government Center as part of a reconstruction project. In December 1964, the Huntington subway stop at Mechanics was renamed to Prudential after the completion of the nearby Prudential Tower. The following February, the nearby Massachusetts station was renamed to Auditorium. Various changes were undertaken by the MBTA in 1967 in order to improve wayfinding on the network. On the subway, the 3 rapid transit lines were renamed by color, with the Cambridge-Dorchester Tunnel becoming the Red Line, the Washington Tunnel and Elevated becoming the Orange Line, and the East Boston Tunnel becoming the Blue Line. The city's remaining streetcar routes were incorporated as the Green Line, with the B branch using the Commonwealth Avenue Reservation to Boston College, and the C branch using the Beacon Street Reservation to Cleveland Circle. The A branch followed the B branch along Commonwealth Avenue to Packard's Corner, before continuing in mixed traffic to Watertown. On the opposite side, streetcars along the Huntington Reservation continued as the E branch, running south from Brigham Circle in mixed traffic to the Forest Hills Orange Line station. The Highland branch was incorporated as the Green Line's D branch, while the 28 Mattapan Ashmont line became the Mattapan Trolley branch of the Red Line. In January, the Orange and Red Line interchange at Summer-Winter in Washington was renamed to Washington, while the neighboring Orange and Blue Line interchange at Milk State in Devonshire was renamed to State. One stop north, Union Friend and Haymarket Square were merged into Haymarket. In February, the Orange Line station at Boylston, Essex was simplified to Essex, while the Blue Line station at Atlantic Avenue was renamed to Aquarium. In November, limited Red Line service to Stadium ended, with all trains on the route now ending at Harvard. The A branch of the Green Line was converted to buses 2 years later in June 1969, adding streetcars into Watertown. In 1970, the B branch stop at Foster Street was moved to Greycliff Road. 11 years after the last system expansion, a new branch of the Red Line opened in September 1971, adding 3 new stations from Andrew to Quincy Center. Charles Station on the Red Line was renamed to Charles MGH in December 1973, reflecting the nearby Massachusetts General Hospital. Replacement of the elevated train lines in Boston began in April 1975, with the closure of the Charlestown Elevated between Everett and Haymarket. In its place, the Orange Line was extended north along a different alignment to Sullivan Square, servicing a new underground stop at North Station. That September, an additional one-stop extension of this line opened to Wellington, followed in December by a further extension to Malden Center. The Green Line's B branch also saw 2 stop changes that year, with the Alcorn Street stop being relocated to Babcock Street, and the stop at University Road being closed. A final one-stop extension of the Orange Line opened in March 1977, with service beginning to the present terminus at Oak Grove. The Red Line station at Kendall was renamed in August 1978, indicating the nearby presence of MIT. In March 1979, construction began near Harvard Station on the Red Line, in preparation for a future expansion of the route. As part of this work, a temporary one-stop extension opened, with trains now servicing a platform at Harvard Brattle. On the opposite end of the Red Line, a one-stop extension from Quincy Center opened in March 1980, with trains now traveling to the present end station at Braintree. At the same time, 4 service-level stops on the E branch of the Green Line closed. In June, the Green Line's B branch stop at Leamington Road was also closed. Major budget pressures affected the MBTA in January 1981, forcing the Blue Line to be cut back from Bodwin to Government Center. Additionally, the Green Line E branch station at Symphony was closed, and the hours at various other stations on the network were reduced. At the end of the month, Harvard Station on the Red Line was closed, being replaced by a nearby temporary station at Harvard Holyoke. Budget pressures eased in 1982, with the Blue Line being extended to Bodwin in April, and the Symphony Station on the Green Line being reopened in June. In July, 4 stops on the Green Line C branch were closed as part of a reconstruction project. More station renamings occurred in December, with the Red Line station at Kendall MIT becoming Cambridge Center MIT, and Columbia becoming JFK UMass. Construction around Harvard concluded in September 1983, with Harvard Brattle and Harvard Holyoke stations being replaced by the rebuilt Harvard Station. Later that month, an infill station opened on the opposite end of the line, with trains now stopping at Quincy Adams. Red Line service was extended north from Harvard in December 1984, with 2 new stations opening to Davis. The following March, an additional one-stop extension opened, taking the route to its present terminus at Alewife. Cambridge Center MIT station was renamed once again in June, reverting back to Kendall MIT. On the Green Line's E branch, service was revised in December, with the street running sections beyond Brigham Circle being closed for construction. Replacement of Boston's elevated lines continued into April 1987, with the Orange Line service between Essex and Forest Hills being relocated into a railway right-of-way. 8 new stations were serviced along the alignment, replacing the Washington Elevated between these 2 stops. At the same time, various stations on the line were renamed, with Essex becoming Chinatown and Washington becoming Downtown Crossing. The Green Line's E branch station at Ruggles was also renamed to Museum in order to reduce confusion with the new Ruggles Orange Line station. A new platform opened on the Braintree branch of the Red Line in December 1988, with trains on the route now stopping at JFK UMass. The following year, in November 1989, the E branch of the Green Line was extended once again, with streetcars running in mixed traffic from Brigham Circle to Heath Street. The Green Line station at Auditorium was renamed in March 1990, now being referred to as Heinz Convention Center ICA. Service on the network remained relatively unchanged throughout the rest of the 1990s, until Fenway Park Station on the Green Line's D branch was simplified in July 2000. 4 years after that, stops on the Green Line's B branch were consolidated in April 2004, removing 4 stops from the route. At the same time, the C branch stop at Winchester Street was renamed to Summit Avenue. In December, Boston's first busway opened, the first infrastructure expansion in 17 years. Silver Line buses ran from South Station on the Red Line, with a dedicated tunnel and roadway servicing 3 stops to Silver Line Way. From there, buses continued in mixed traffic on 2 branches, running to the Boston Marine Industrial Park and City Point. The Green Line subway station at Heinz Convention Center ICA was renamed once again in 2006, with the ICA being dropped from the name. 3 years later, in January 2009, the Green Line station at Science Park was also expanded, now referencing West End. In March 2010, the Orange Line station at New England Medical Center was renamed Tufts Medical Center, following the name change of the adjacent facility. 4 years later, in September 2014, an infill station opened near the north end of the Orange Line, with trains now stopping at Assembly. In April 2018, a second busway opened on the Silver Line, with the Chelsea busway beginning service. Buses stopped at 4 stations along a dedicated roadway, before continuing mixed traffic to the existing Silver Line stop at Silver Line Way. On the Green Line's B branch, more stop consolidations occurred in February 2021, with Pleasant Street being closed. This brings us to the Boston subway, light rail, and busway map that we know today. In the years to come, more expansions are planned for the Boston Rapid Transit Network, which will see new branches and stations open across the system. In summer 2021, a new busway will open in the median of Columbus Avenue, running south from the Orange Line station at Jackson Square and servicing 4 stops. After Walnut Avenue, buses on the 22, 29, and 44 will continue south in mixed traffic, servicing various other stops along their routes. In August, the Green Line B branch stations at St. Paul Street and Boston University West will be merged, creating a new station at Amory Street. The Green Line will be extended north from Leechmere in October, with a one-stop extension taking the D branch to Union Square. In December, an additional branch of the Green Line will open north from Lechmere, with trains on the E branch servicing 5 new stations to Medford Tufts. That was the evolution of Boston's subway, light rail, and busway network, giving us the 6 lines that we know today. If you haven't already, be sure to watch our video on the evolution of Boston's commuter rail network, which you can access by clicking the button in the top right corner. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and comment down below to join in the discussion. My name's Zach, and I'll be vanishing underground until the next one.